In just 47 seconds, $287 billion in emergency pandemic funds became the subject of a constitutional lawsuit that no one in Brussels saw coming. The European Court of Justice didn't issue a warning. It didn't schedule a preliminary hearing. At exactly 9:14 a.m. on a freezing February morning, the Registrar's Office published a case filing that sent shockwaves through every corridor of power from Berlin to Strasbourg. Angela Merkel's name appeared 17 times in the supporting documents. The cameras outside the Kirchberg courthouse captured nothing but routine traffic. Inside the Berlaymont building, absolute chaos erupted. What did a retired German chancellor allegedly authorize during the height of the COVID crisis that could now unravel the entire legal foundation of the European Union's fiscal response? I'm standing in the press gallery of the European Court of Justice, and the atmosphere is unlike anything I've witnessed in 15 years. 3 judges entered at 10 a.m. sharp, their faces unreadable masks of judicial authority. The Commission's legal team sat frantically scrolling through tablets, whispering in urgent German and French. The plaintiffs, German constitutional lawyers backed by anonymous billionaire funding, exuded the calm confidence of people holding a royal flush. They know something catastrophic for Brussels? The case designation is C89-2026, the Merkel Protocol. During the emergency session of the European Council on March 23, 2020, when hospitals across Italy and Spain were overwhelmed, Angela Merkel allegedly bypassed standard treaty procedures and personally negotiated a shadow agreement with Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. This agreement created a $287 billion emergency liquidity mechanism never properly ratified by national parliaments as required under Article 310. The funds were disbursed, the bonds were issued. But the legal authority, the plaintiffs argue, was a fiction built on verbal assurances and late-night phone calls rather than democratic legitimacy. The leaked court filing is devastating. The defendant parties, including former Chancellor Dr. Angela Merkel and Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, did knowingly circumvent Article 310 of the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union by activating extraordinary budgetary powers without unanimous consent of member state legislatures. This isn't a procedural violation. This is institutional fraud. The timeline reads like a conspiracy thriller. On March 22, 2020, at 11:47 p.m., Merkel held a secure video conference with von der Leyen, Macron, and Conte. No minutes were recorded, no translators present. The conversation lasted 68 minutes. 9 hours later, the Commission announced the Recovery and Resilience Facility, channeling nearly $300 billion. The speed was unprecedented, the legal justification vague. The entire structure was built on a verbal agreement that violated every treaty obligation. But here's where the story becomes truly sinister. The plaintiffs submitted encrypted messages from a decommissioned Frankfurt server preserved by a whistleblower. These messages discuss Protocol Sigma in explicit detail, appearing 43 times. One message, time-stamped, March 24, 2020 at 6:47 a.m. reads, Sigma activated per AM directive. Bundestag briefing postponed until full disbursement complete. AM confirmed legal shield operational through Article 122 interpretation. Proceed with Phase 2 transfers. AM Angela Merkel. This suggests deliberate, premeditated concealment of a massive financial operation from elected representatives. The lead judge, Philippe Durand, asks the Commission's chief counsel, can you confirm or deny that Chancellor Merkel was granted unilateral authority to commit EU funds without parliamentary oversight during the March 2020 crisis period? The lawyer takes a long pause. You can hear the clock ticking. She glances at her notes, then toward the gallery where Commission officials watch with barely concealed dread. Her response will be replayed on every news channel by tonight. Your Honor, I must request a procedural delay to consult with my clients regarding executive privilege that may apply to communications from that period. The courtroom erupts. Executive privilege in the European Union. A supranational order built on transparency is invoking the same shield American presidents use to hide White House scandals. They have something to hide, and they just admitted it in open court. If the $287 billion mechanism was unlawful, every bond issued becomes legally contestable. Investors holding European recovery bonds would face immediate uncertainty. The markets are reacting with panic. The euro dropped 1.2% within 30 minutes. German bond yields spiked sharply. Bloomberg terminals flash red. Hedge funds are building massive short positions on European sovereign debt, betting this triggers a cascade of legal challenges. Credit default swaps on Italian and Spanish debt are widening dramatically. The financial chaos is just the surface. How did Merkel, who lectured Southern Europe about fiscal responsibility, orchestrate the largest off-the-books spending program in EU history? The lawsuit names von der Leyen as co-defendant, but sources suggest the net is widening to Christine Lagarde at the ECB over coordinated pandemic asset purchases. Dr. Klaus Reinhardt, former senior advisor in the German finance ministry, is subpoenaed. Plaintiff's attorney Sophia Berkovich wastes no time. Dr. Reinhardt, were you present during the March 23, 2020 strategy meeting at the Chancellery? He nods. Yes. Can you describe what was discussed regarding emergency EU funding? He hesitates, eyes darting toward the Commission's team. The judge intervenes. You are under oath. Answer the question. Reinhardt confirms Merkel personally drafted a proposal to bypass normal treaty procedures, citing Article 122 as cover. But Article 122 requires qualified majority vote and parliament consultation. Neither happened. Merkel secured verbal agreements from Macron, Conte, and Rutte, presenting it as fait accompli. Von der Leyen was initially hesitant, but acquiesced after Merkel assured her legal formalities could be addressed retroactively once the crisis stabilized. Legal formalities addressed retroactively. The constitutional foundation treated like late homework. The Commission argues Article 122 grants broad powers during emergencies, citing 2008 financial crisis precedents. But Berkovich counters with a 2012 ECJ ruling, Pringle versus Ireland, stating emergency mechanisms must comply with democratic accountability. Your Honor, the Commission is asking this court to legalize autocracy in the name of crisis management. That is not law. That is tyranny. The word hangs in the air. This is now a referendum on EU legitimacy itself. The Commission holds an emergency statement. Von der Leyen is absent. A nervous spokesperson reads, "The Commission categorically denies any wrongdoing and maintains all actions were legally sound and in the best interest of European citizens." He refuses questions and exits through a side door. The response is defensive, vague, devoid of confidence. They're containing a scandal, not defending their actions. A German government source tells me, the Chancellery is preparing a statement distancing current leadership from Merkel's actions. The word from the top is she acted unilaterally, without full cabinet approval. If this lawsuit succeeds, she's the firewall. Everyone else walks away. Merkel is being positioned as the sacrificial lamb, but if she goes down, she won't go quietly. Sources hint she possesses documentation, recordings, perhaps video evidence. If forced to testify, she could bring down half the European leadership. The plaintiffs file an emergency motion to suspend all bond payments pending the ruling. If granted, billions freeze, triggering fiscal crisis in Italy, Spain, Greece. Anti-EU parties would seize this as proof Brussels is corrupt. The hearing is packed with MEPs and officials. The plaintiff's attorney argues continuing unlawful disbursements deepens the constitutional wound. The Commission counters that suspension would cause irreparable economic harm. It's an admission. Yes, this might be illegal, but we can't stop because the consequences would be severe. Ponzi scheme logic. The judges deliberate for less than an hour. The ruling, The court finds sufficient evidence of procedural irregularities to warrant investigation. However, we will not grant immediate suspension. The Commission must provide, within 30 days, complete documentary evidence of the legal basis, including all March 2020 communications. Failure to comply results in automatic suspension. A compromise tilting toward plaintiffs. 30 days to prove it was legal, or we shut it down. The Commission doesn't have the evidence. Headlines dominate Europe. Financial Times, ECJ demands Merkel-era documents in 287 billion scandal. Der Spiegel, Protocol, Sigma, secret deal that could destroy EU. Over 2 weeks, leaked excerpts appear. One message from von der Leyen to Merkel: we move fast, secure the votes we have, formalize later. The law will bend if we act with conviction. Another from a French aide to Macron: German proposal bypasses parliamentary review. Legal risk high but political necessity higher. Recommend proceeding. These aren't accidents. Someone wants this to explode. Rumors suggest Poland and Hungary are backing the lawsuit to strike back at Brussels for years of rule of law sanctions. The irony is perfect. Institutions that lectured Eastern Europe about constitutional order are exposed bypassing their own rules. On day 23, the Commission files 800 pages of legal arguments, but missing clear parliamentary authorization. They argue the pandemic created a constitutional gray zone where procedures were impractical. Democracy can be suspended when difficult. The final hearing arrives. The lead judge reads, "The court finds the emergency mechanism did not comply with Articles 310 and 122. Parliamentary ratification absence violates democratic accountability. However, given dispersed funds and catastrophic harm from reversal, we will not order restitution. We mandate reforms and recommend member states pursue legal remedies against officials." Split decision. Commission loses on law, wins on remedy. Merkel's protocol was illegal, but money won't be returned. The court confirmed EU leadership broke its own rules. I'm witnessing the end of an era. The EU was built on rules mattering more than power. Today confirmed. When stakes were high, those in charge chose power over rules.